so much for joining us today. With almost 150 people registered, it's clear this topic is striking a nerve, and we're here to help you unpack it. If you're with us live, please drop a note in the chat and tell us where you're joining us from. And if you're catching the replay later, we're glad you're here too. So please say hello in the comments so we know you stopped by. Before we dive in, just a quick bit of housekeeping. Our CEO, Vivek Mehta, was scheduled to join us today, but couldn't make it. Why, we say? Well, basically, we've got him chained to his computer, coding furiously.
We do. Chained to the loom.
he's stuck in there, and he's coding furiously because we're almost ready to relaunch Gia, our mentorship-grade AI platform that drives execution, innovation, and employee retention. And we are very, very excited to introduce this to you shortly. But all that said, you're in very good hands today. I am thrilled to be joined by Anissa Avon. She is the founder of Turnkey Coaching Solutions and the co-founder of PeopleTransformation.ai. She has been shaping the AI space since 2017, helping organizations go beyond experimental to make AI a normal, integrated part of how work gets done. She has deep experience translating AI potential into business impact, and today she's going to help us crack the code into why so many AI projects stall and to how to finally break out of pilot purgatory. And by the way, stick around to the end for a very special private invite to an upcoming event. Anissa Avon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, for hosting, I should say. And thank you, everyone, for joining us and being interested in this topic. I should probably qualify. I started being interested in 2017 because I envisioned the day that I would have my own AI robot to do the housework, dishes and the sweeping. And Kelly and I both are dog and cat people. So I have one cat, 3 dogs, plus my daughter's dog here, plus some fishes, plus a husband that's kind of crazy and, in construction. So he just tromps all in with his nasty boots. Doesn't matter. I cannot wait for the affordable, reasonably priced robot that I can justify spending so it can do my, all right. And that's what I've been paying attention to since 2017.
But, robots or AI?
I want the robot. AI. Yeah, I want the robot. And in about 2020 is when I met Vivek, and some of you guys know him. He's just brilliant. And he's just one of those people where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to ride that man's coattails because he's brilliant and he's smart and I've got a few ideas of my own. And that's how we kind of came together to co-found Weave AI, which is driving employee retention at scale inside healthcare organizations, which was, is continued to be problematic since the pandemic. And we've branched into other industries and organizations with people transformation AI. So using that mentorship grade AI that you mentioned to drive execution and talent enablement, leadership development, and employee retention. So it's essentially an AI enabled change management platform. So nobody really wants to invest in change management. We all want the results of that, right? and that's what we're doing here, producing the results. But thanks for hosting, Kelly. I'm looking forward to the topic.
Absolutely. So let's just dive in. So tell me this, why do so many AI initiatives show early promise, but then they seem to stall before reaching scale?
So, I think we need to talk a little bit about what that actually means, right? What is the failure? There was a recent MIT study done that essentially said that 95% of AI, and specifically, I should say, generative AI projects or pilots, they're calling them, are not delivering the lasting impact. And I want to calibrate around my perspective in working with clients what that actually means, that lasting impact, and why that is. And from my opinion, it's because most of us that have been fairly early adopters to AI or who are spearheading initiatives inside organizations, first and foremost, I think leaders that are like, let's do this, right, don't have a full understanding that this is a a workflow change, and we have to treat it like it is a normal business development initiative, right? And that means you got to get your data together. You've got to work on risk and compliance. And here's a big one that I find leaders don't put the full weight of the problem in front of them, and that's just user skepticism, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's I don't want to lose my job, or that literally I was working with a construction company, helping them specifically eliminate some of that sludge around data entry. And the office manager was going from, okay, got an email. Now I have to take that data and I got to put it into our CRM. Then I got to put it into our, whatever it was, the insurance platform. Then I have to, it was like 4 different systems. And we helped them identify and, AI implement. What we do is the strategy work and then the change management on the backside. So we did the strategy. And by the time we first launched it, there was a glitch in the system. And she was like, that takes me more time than the system I'm used to. Shut down, no longer was interested in even trying it. Skepticism was valid and accurate, right? That she was skeptical. But the company hadn't really created the change management process to even inform people that this is an iterative cycle and that we're going to have to take your input on this so that we can make your job easier, not worse. So she was out. I'm not even going to do that. That's it.
So because I happen to know the company that you're speaking of, in the end, what was that outcome?
They are still working on it. They pulled the plug temporarily until they could go back and get the systems integrated properly. Part of it was just bad data, and the requirements on the operational team was to try to fix that on the go, and it was just too much, which was fair. And I kind of hinted to that, suggested they not go that route when we talked about it. But live and learn for everyone. But point being, bad data, lack of workflow integration, poor or no. This is actually what I see most of. No feedback loops. Let your people tell you how it's going over time and take their input seriously. And then, of course, the absence of really strong governance is going to kill most pilots. That 95% is real, but I know that we'll talk about this in a little bit. It's not the tech. It's the implementation, design, and oversight process that's the real problem.
Right. So, yes. And when you say it's not the tech, it's the oversight that brings up the employees and the skepticism and the concern. So that's probably one of the holdbacks on the pilot programs, isn't it?
It is. And especially if they launch something, let's say they launched something, a year or so ago, and that taste of how bad that went is still on people's minds. So there's not only skepticism, there's a lack of trust, right? Oh my gosh. I think it was probably 6 months ago, I was talking to a leader, manufacturing space, and she actually said to me, what were the words? Oh, but the AI systems haven't come far enough for us to do this. And what she really wanted to do was just literally aggregate data to help them produce better reports so that they could have the decision intelligence at their fingertips when they needed it without having to rely on manual aggregation, right? And I had to hide the look on my face, right? Because I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, these systems are taking over every corner of every industry. You can't tell me they haven't advanced enough. What hasn't advanced are the number of people who know how to get what's needed out of the systems. That's with that organization, that was the challenge.
Okay. So is that where the demo, disinterest, doubt cycle actually comes in, and what it looks like inside of an organization? And then,
yeah, for sure.
Can I ask you a second part of that before you dive in? What signals will tell leaders that they're stuck in it?
Yeah, that cycle of, you call it demo, disinterest, and doubt. Yes. Yeah. So the in the demo portion, the AI tool is typically super impressive, right? It's in a controlled setting. It doesn't have to prove that all the data is clean. It isn't embedded into the workflow. So you demo this great idea, whether it's payroll or administrative improvement or hiring, whatever it is. Oh my God, I want it really bad. Let me have it right now. So then, but after the demo, right, teams revert to old habits, what they've always done at some point when it's new tech, when you got to figure out how to work the system. And when your company is not training you to understand I'm going to repeat this, the iterative cycle of any kind of innovation, but AI is no different. That iterative cycle can be faster if you've got a PMO, project management office, that helps you with the change in mindset and with the process. But that disinterest happens when the new system feels bolted on or unreliable or isolated, or if there's a lack of confidence that they know how to use it. I have one client, large 130,000 employees, and they pushed out a AI policy, right? This is our policy. Basically, it said, just don't upload our stuff, right? What they didn't tell everyone is they have a co-pilot license, right? So everyone knew they had a co-pilot license. Well, that's inaccurate. Some people knew how to use co-pilot and that their data was already integrated, right? What that policy intended to say is don't go outside our controlled system and upload our secret sauce. So they had literally hundreds of their team members that they were paying. I think the number is somewhere between 30 and let's call it $40 a month per license. So millions of dollars a month on enabling people to use AI with permission that nobody knew how to use. And some folks would go in and watch the tutorials and that was it. But not until they began to develop a structured approach. You're going to have your early adopters and your innovators who will literally stay up all night watching those YouTube videos, trying to figure out, how do I make this thing create whatever it is? And then you're going to have other people who are like, I typed in me, got scared, and I ran. We have to provide the training and the resources and the coaching and the mentoring, and you need champions of those projects to be present in order to pop in. Hey, how's that project going? Did you have a chance to use it? Can I sit with you and help you? Or you need a designated methodology to train your people. So that was only the disinterest. Let's go to the doubt now, right? Almost there.
Right.
So once leadership loses confidence due to those inconsistent results or unclear ROI or, yes, low adoption rates, that's when that project momentum evaporates. And once you get that gone, it's really hard to reset the clock without some kind of let's come together and tell me what will make your life easier. So you had a second part of that question too.
Well, let me ask you this, like, you step in a lot when people hit that final doubt stage, or when the companies hit that doubt stage, and you basically have, the glassy-eyed employees who are like, yeah, no, this is not working for me, and a burden of money. So what are you doing when you come back in and help them with that?
Yeah. So we go back to square one, and that is, what are your strategic priorities? And how does this initiative map to those strategic priorities? So, right, we're going to talk strategy, and we're going to do some critical analysis. Tell me exactly what the ROI is that you're expecting this to produce, and how did you come to that idea? So whatever that is, I want to get in and see it, talk to the leaders, and find out, what did you hope that success would look like? From there, we're going to reverse engineer it, right? There's always a change management process to any kind of innovation. So we need to find out, who are your champions that don't understand why it hasn't worked and are really disappointed. Let me get in with them. Because the second I get in with them, I'm going to find out where were the glitches and what gaps need to close. And most of the time, that square one looks like alignment. It looks like a shared vision of whether there's three stages, right? That if this is an oversimplification, but there are essentially 3 phases that I recommend companies go through when they are implementing AI solutions. And the first is train your people on generative AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, I don't care what, give them Perplexity, put it into a closed loop system so your secret sauce doesn't get out there, and train your people. I'm not talking one session. I'm talking an ongoing cadence to give them the confidence they need to see how their peers are using it. So that generative AI, if a company is really looking to grow and innovate, you get your leaders using Gen I. It's going to make their lives easier. Their email is faster. Their workflow is faster. They're producing reports faster. They're making better quality decisions, right? Because the data is there and they don't have the burden of as much sludge. You're going to save. I think that the average number, and if you guys want where I got this source, ping us and I'll look it up. The average number is it's saving the average employee. I'm not talking about the high performing leaders that use it every day. I'm talking the average employee is saving 2 weeks every year just by leveraging some of the basic generative AI.
Yeah.
So you get those wins, right? Phase 1, get wins, get people using it, get people feeling, well, like I feel. I don't want to do work anymore without it, right? Don't make it go back. Don't take it away from me. Please don't let the grid in Texas go down because I don't like it anymore. I it's definitely my blankie at this point. But with that in mind, once you get that kind of success underneath your belt, oops, I forgot.
Yeah, we didn't just see that.
Forgot to turn
My
off
niece
that
has
phone.
never done one of these before, so she didn't know to turn that phone off.
Can I blame that on Igor? Igor, where are you? So phase 2, now we're going to move into agentic AI. So that's where you take your workflow processes that require, I don't know why I keep fading in and out. Maybe it's because I move too much. Does my camera keep giving you fuzz?
A little bit. I think, yeah, it does.
Oh,
but
I'm going to sit still. Okay. So agentic AI, phase 2 is agentic AI. So now you take your workflows, whether that's payroll or performance reviews or gathering feedback or automating outbound sales, right? You take those processes that require manual effort and it's drudgery. It's the same thing over and over again. Perfect example is sales. So in sales, you and I are young enough to know what knocking on doors or making phone calls, the old school way used to look like. What did you do? Oh, I know who I want to call. I want to call them. And you'd have to go figure out, how do I research them, right? Now it's, you go to LinkedIn and you can look and see who are they and what's their history and where they've been and what, can I figure out their dog's name, right? Whatever that is. Well, now all of those pieces of lead gen, finding their contact information, finding out their backstory, finding out what makes them tick, and hopefully their pets' names and their children's names, and all of that can be automated with AI. Now, when companies, so that's phase 2, you systemize that through what's called agentic AI. Those are low hanging fruit ways to automate workflows and to automate how work gets done, to where people are now like, oh, I got an extra 2 hours in this day. And that's when the real strategic and innovative work can come in. All of that work is brilliant and fantastic. Now we get to phase 3, which is autonomous AI. It is automating, like, I think the number that I read was 7. When organizations are using AI and systems to automate their payroll, they're literally reducing the time spent on payroll by 70%. 70%. 70.
Wow. Think about that. I mean, it's kind of interesting because before we got on live, we were talking about how there's so many things that we need to do, but we tend to have to do the things that we're supposed to do, let's call it supposed to do first. But the things that we need to do, like the strategies, things that are going to really move the needle forward, those tend to be the things that don't get focused on immediately unless someone brings in somebody like you, hires somebody like you. And so now we're creating the time for people to actually do that on an ongoing basis, which is huge.
It's huge.
It is huge. It is
It's
huge.
huge.
People worry that they're going to lose jobs, but I think, and you can speak to this much greater than I can, it's not so much lose, it's gaining more traction. Um, so,
Yeah.
so and everybody that are on right now, everybody who's listening, I just want to say, if you want to do a call with Anissa, there's her strategy call, QRL. Grab it, and I'll leave it up for just a minute while I ask her the next question, and I'll get it out of her face. So, and I think we kind of talked about this, but if this isn't a technology failure, but a leadership and cultural failure, what specific mindsets or behaviors should leaders model to move basically from curiosity to adoption?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's really, it goes back to leadership 101 in my, and to oversimplify it. And that is being willing to model that transparency and that curiosity and that openness to experimentation, not just top down control. I see it time and time again that, a leader will go over to IT and say, we want to do this. You, next thing you know, IT has done what IT does best. I've created it. Here's, my Frankenstein. and now Frankenstein is pushed down to people who were supposed to be excited about it. And that's when earlier you asked a question that I didn't answer. So I want to loop back up, and then we'll come back to it's not a tech failure. It's a leadership failure. And so those signals of how you know your folks are not into it, right, is just low voluntary usage. When people are still doing their manual workarounds, when they're skeptical about AI predictions or fairness, right? When someone gets in trouble because they had AI write them an email and they didn't read it before they sent it to the CEO, and it's really horrible, right? That's bad training, right? Now other people are like, I don't want to use it, I'll get fired, right? So the project reviews stalled in pilot or proof of concept phases, and those items need visibility. That's where that transparency goes to. So rising the conversations, rising meaning highlighting the conversations around the risk, around what to expect, around the mindset, around curiosity and an openness to experimentation. All of that is inside the vision, right? And so Leadership 101 really is about our vision for the future, our vision for the future. And if we go to, will people lose their jobs? The answer is yes. We're already seeing it. It's happening. But how do people keep their jobs, right? They keep their job because that extra 2 hours that they have now, if they resent that now that work is, something else is going to be, pushed into that vacuum, and now they're going to have more work. The answer is yes, you're going to have more work, but perhaps it's work that will demonstrate your thinking capacity, your strategic value, your value that you can bring to the company that you haven't had a time to do because you've been so busy doing this admin work, which is why your resume is been brushed off several times, right? So I think when employees recognize this is here to make my life easier, and I want to do more of the high value creation on the job, don't wait for your boss or your manager or your CEO to come to you and say, how might, what are we missing in your bag of tricks? What could you bring to us that I'm not aware of? Bring it. Bring the ideas, bring the innovation, hey, I've got an idea for a new product line. I know that's not my lane, but if I put the business case together, would you be interested in giving me some feedback? What good leader is going to be like, stay in your lane, dude? So I think that 2 hours does give people, or whatever it ends up being, an opportunity to explore not only up leveling their skills, but how they can create greater value and create the next level assignment for them in the company.
think that's so true. So true. So let me ask you this one. And I'm going to read this one because this one's a little long. So you've said that real scale requires system change, not just more tools.
Yeah.
What does that system change look like in practice? Can you share a concrete example of a company or team that's made that shift successfully?
Yeah. Let me think. So let me start with the first part of your question.
Okay.
System change means redesigning processes, the data infrastructure, the governance, and frankly, the team incentives. So AI is fully embedded, not an add-on. I think that's a really important. So I'm kind of repeat it again.
Say that
Redesign the
again because
process.
I get what you're saying, but it's important to bring that one in because
Yeah,
people think that it's just something they're gonna just, this is just one little piece to add to what's going on when it's really an umbrella, right?
it is. And Gen AI can be launched faster than agentic AI because agentic AI means you got to go through that workflow process in order to decide, if we're going to spend, I mean, the amount a company can spend on an AI initiative varies from 1,000 to 700,000 to 1,000,000, right? So it depends on what's the goal of this agentic AI and what's the ROI, right? But the failures happen it's difficult to scale when the workflow itself wasn't evaluated and didn't get input from the people who were actually in the middle of the workflow, right? And so that data infrastructure, that means what is the hygiene of your data? Garbage in, garbage out. And if you're attaching an AI, agentic AI, or a conversational AI to an SOP that was written in 1979 by the original founder, not so useful. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you'd be amazed at how often when I'm like, okay, problem. Well, everything I get is old. Well, okay, that's not an AI problem. That's a data problem.
Right.
And that can be fixed with ding, 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 AI. Right? So here's an example. A pharmaceutical company unified fragmented data sources with a cloud-based platform, and they automated the validation and government. So real time, real insights at their fingertips led to about a 19% gain in market share and much faster decision making. And the 19% gain in market share, huge. Like, wow. Raise your hand if you'd like to see that, But at the same time, what really led to that is faster decision making. But when companies are looking at their, justification for the investment, it's really hard to have a crystal ball to say that's going to give us a 19% increase, gain. But it's not so hard to say, how will this help us be more strategic? And how will this accelerate our decision making? And can that decision making have a certain criteria that our best decision makers possess that enables us to make systematic decisions with confidence at scale across the organization? Now, those numbers might be squishy, but you can do the ROI. You can do an analysis and say, I project that if that enables our managers to make better managing decisions at the point of decision, because they have access to better data and the framework that we like to use for prioritizing decisions, now you've got an aggregate that will last long after that initial investment. But let's not forget how important it is to share those wins with all employees. That leadership team that's looking at that data going, wow, we just had an overnight 15% increase. Who's responsible for that? Your employees. When are you going to tell them? Tomorrow. Hey guys, just want you to know, super excited. I know we've had some bumps in the road, but it's worth it. And right? So I think all too often that system change, even if they get the process analysis right or their data really cleaned up, they miss the compliance, or they miss the governance, or they miss the training. Oh my gosh, the companies miss the AI training.
Yeah.
This is a really great tool. It's like a fork. You're going to want to use it every day. Okay.
It's true. I mean, that is something that we see a lot too. It's yeah, and and we all are experiencing it also, I believe, that if we're not training or learning, it's just hard to use. So it's important. So tell me this. And if we get this right, okay, if
Oh,
AI,
we've got a question too. Did you
oh,
see
we do
that?
have a question. Well, let's jump into that question
Oh, I
first.
guess it's not a question. But I do want to show it. I'm going to click the little
Okay,
show
you share
button.
that question.
Hey, Sharon, thanks for submitting.
Yes, yeah, that's true. You're right, Sharon. It could potentially change your entire team performance model.
And possibly when a company doesn't have an we're calling it a fresh performance model, right? How many times have we gone into a client's office and they're working on a performance model that worked really great until last year, and now everything has changed, right? The mindset has changed, the market has changed, the risks have changed. We talked about the accelerating nature of acceleration.
Yeah.
And so some of those old performance models of being risk averse, when we work with clients, I do something called a builder protector analysis. And basically, depending on a company's stage of growth, they need to have a certain builder rate to protector ratio. And it's typically 2 to 3 to 1. And when you do that analysis, we find out, especially successful companies, their protector ratio is so high that they're no longer agile enough to grow, because the primary culture is protect, protect, protect. It's not to say that we can't protect. That's important, but there's a balance. And when we lose sight of the need to sell, to innovate, to grow, to foster a culture where people can know it's okay to make mistakes, not gazillion-dollar mistakes, but it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, that's how you figure out where and how to innovate. So I don't know where I was going with that, except to say, yeah, we may have to change our entire performance model.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, when we allow people to make mistakes, we allow change to happen, and without being allowed to have a mistake, no one's going to try.
Yeah, we lose
Okay,
high performers that way.
Yeah, we've got one more question for you, and actually, let me put your schedule up while I ask you this question, because it's going to be a couple of seconds.
All right, while you're doing that, Sharon wrote, AI could change the employees' goals, their commitment and implementation, as well as how we are making them high performers. It's so true. One of the best pilots that we've run with GIA and people transformation was we took a manager development program. 60 employees went through it. And we took the entire leadership curriculum and enabled every single manager to engage with conversational AI to drive whatever that competency was. Some points it was productive conflict, other points it was strategic thinking or business case development, whatever that was, even time management. Part of the tech was to enable them to practice what they had learned over 10 months. And we took that original and we did some benchmarks at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. And the average manager increased competency by 60%. We had them just benchmark 3 competencies that their manager of the managers said, these are the things that, these are the competencies that we want you to improve. And we helped them, the tech actually identify, what does success look like for me? What are my goals? What does success look like? How will I know I've accomplished it? And over that 10 months, the average was 60% improvement in competency, with some people receiving a 90% improvement on those. That's literally unheard of. Most, up until now, leadership, we in the HR training and development space, no, I don't know why people ever hired us, because about 87%, I think that's what it was. It was maybe 83% of all skills training is lost in the first 30 days. That means for every dollar in this billion-dollar industry that I've been in for nearly 30 years, that a company spends, they're only getting 17 cents of value. That's how much our feeble little brains can hold from these big training investments. And because we have to train our people, and our people expect some kind of development opportunities, we still invest that. Well, now, like Sharon is saying, with AI, we can do micro learning in combination with whatever our training program is. And that's literally what people transformation does and what GIA does, but it will produce, it will significantly increase that learning by what we're finding is at least 4x. So now instead of 17 cents of value, you can recapture 60 to 90% of value from a training investment.
Yeah, I love that. And you said something that I really have to pull out real quick, is you said it was over 10 months. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people are thinking that this has to happen at the speed of light, like everything else. But when we're training, it takes time. And we need to be willing to have that time to train, because we aren't regurgitating the internet. We need to learn as we go.
So I would love to walk into the gym, do 100 sit-ups, and walk out with them washboard abs. It's really irritating that that's not a possibility, right? But
right, it's just finished.
And I understand, when we have internal training programs, and I come back later and I'm like, well, you went through that training 3 months ago, and they're like, yeah, I haven't touched that system in 3 months. Well, why can't you remember it all? Okay. Reality is human beings, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's been one of the biggest problems with learning and development. If I'm not using this crucial conversation skill on a pretty regular basis, I'm not going to remember it at the time of need. I'm going to default to what I've always done. And now with the tech, we can drive that practice in 3-minute segments, not an 8-hour day. Not that that's not valuable too. People like to come together, and there's benefit in that. But the old way of training, development, change management hasn't really ever worked to its fullest value. And now we can augment that in order to drive better value and results.
And actually, that's exactly what we're doing right now. So that's cool. So let me give you this one last question. If we get this right, if AI truly becomes embedded in workflows, what will work look like? You've talked about this briefly, but think about it. What will work look like? I like a party. And how will leaders know that they've moved from the pilot mode to a truly AI-enabled culture? Will they ever?
Brilliant. So I'm going to start with answering your second question, right? Because this gets any founder, CEO, leader, manager, in my opinion, excited, right? So here are your success metrics. When you, and I want to go back to the whole, I'm going to ramble for just a second. If we go back to the whole theme of this entire LinkedIn Live, the whole point is, how do you take a pilot to scale? Why are so many pilots failing? Well, they're failing. One of the reasons is everything we've talked about: poor data, not looking at the actual workflow, feeling like an add-on, not addressing employee skepticism. All of that is change management and business and process development, right? If you've got a project management office, don't just dump all this on a leader. Don't just dump your AI ideas on your tech. Get your project management office involved. If you don't have a project management office, call us. Happy to help. We've got a team, that can help. But point being is the success metrics are exciting. 40% productivity gain for users of well-embedded AI. So the 5%, that's what they're reporting. Those that are successful are reporting we're having a 40% productivity gain. I want you to put that in dollars, right? That's huge, right? And there's lots of studies to show that's the ROI that you're going for. Second is 80% user satisfaction post rollout measured via surveys. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's also improved employee morale. When employees, when their job is easier, right? When they no longer have to, when email came along, it was great because now I didn't have to get to the courier office to send something, right? Or even go to the fax machine to send something or make a phone call, right? It was instant acceleration of business communication. So higher employee morale and 80% user satisfaction post rollout, post iterative rollout. So finally, it's adoption rates. We want to get the adoption through those systems to 60, 75% and make it voluntary usage. Recognize the voluntary usage increase as it goes along, and that pilot can turn into business as usual. One tip that I find really successful companies do is they're transparent. They have a dashboard of their AI initiatives and the success and failure of them. And hey, this initiative isn't going as planned. We were hoping that it would make your life easier in these 3 ways. It hasn't. Tell us what we're missing. We want your feedback. We're looking for a champion for this. And you'll actually see that some of your high performers will step in and be like, I can tell you exactly why that's not working and I can help. So now that was the second part. Those are the success metrics, right? So let's talk a little bit about what does work look like, right? And that is repetitive tasks are automated. It frees up employees for more creative and strategic work. Something that Google did long ago that I always admired is they told employees, and somebody here will have to remind me of the exact percentage of time, but I think it was, they gave them permission. You have 20% of your time can be used for any creative project that you want to work on. Any creative project.
Yeah.
And it was something like 20% of their time. It wasn't chunk change. It was
huge.
You know, and what came out of that? Google Labs and almost these incredible new companies and business product lines came out of that innovation. When your employees are given permission to use that extra time for creative, strategic, innovative, I have one biomedical company, and they have a data analyst who is literally the life of the party. Like when we did a network analysis, this individual showed up as who everyone goes to. And with further review, wasn't like this person had all the data, at their fingertips. It was because this person made people feel good. She's friendly, she's fun, she's always there to contribute, she's always there to have people's back. So once she is freed up to do that, she literally just became the socializer, right? The relationship manager, the person that made work worth coming into the office for.
Right.
And they gave her that freedom. Your job, other than this data analytics, is simply party. Get some employee resource groups together, throw parties. Here's a budget. Talk about a forever employee.
Right.
I've got 2 other pieces there. So yeah, I go off on tangents when I think of those ideas and then I remember them. So AI will then quietly deliver relevant insights to the right people at the right time. We go back to that decision intelligence, right? If I have the data I need and I don't have to try to remember where it was or what have you, then decisions can be made in confidence, and my own level of anxiety and frustration will fall, as well as those that I work with, because now we're all looking at the same data, and we all have the decision intelligence we need to make better market decisions, better product decisions, faster and with greater confidence.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Very good. So before we wrap up, actually 2 things. One of them, let me put your calendar back up there. And why don't I do this? I'm going to invite everybody here to a secret special event that we're going to be having for those people who showed up. And then as soon as we finish that, I want Anissa to wrap up with any of her final thoughts that she'd like to say. So just know that you'll be getting an invitation to a private event with Anissa on December 11th. And what we found is that a lot of times by the time we get to December, it's kind of like, okay, the year is done and we'll start next year. But instead, she's going to be talking about strategy and strategic pieces that you need to be thinking about before the new year rolls around. So you'll be getting that invitation very shortly. Anissa, wrap it up. Tell us what we need to know that we didn't say.
In just a nutshell, to recap, enterprise AI success isn't about the tech alone. It's about your people. It's about the process. It's about leadership. And the vast majority of AI pilots stall, not because the solutions themselves are flawed, but because organizations underestimate the importance of data readiness, talent, champions to champion the project, change management, and just strong executive sponsorship, not just to say, go do this, but that kind of executive that's walking the halls to figure out, what do we need? How is this impacting you? How can we make your life better and thereby make the company better?
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well done. And thank you, everybody who was here. We really appreciate that. And for everybody who's listening later, thank you for taking your time. And we will see you on a secret call on December 11th. And then we'll see everybody.
Wait, did you say September 11th? What did you say?
I'm sorry, December 11th. I'm like,
we're doing this next year? Got it. December 11th. Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. That was a lot of fun. I love your questions. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, y'all. Thank you so much for being here.